Hi everyone, it's Suzanne and welcome to this week's episode of Let's Tap, the show where I share with you one effortless technique that can bring you endless life-changing shifts. It's called energy tapping. And so you might be new to the show, you might be new to energy tapping, and if you are, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. This is an opportunity for you to learn and experience this amazing self-use acupressure technique that can literally help you to calm your mind and calm your body. So I thank everybody who's joining. I want to just make a couple of mentions to those who are on with me. Hello, Cindy. So good to see you as always. Hi, Wendy Sue. And Kim is here also. Thank you for being here. Tonight's show topic is all about how to process the emotional triggers to be able to come to a place of more peace in our life. Life is very overstimulating. From the moment that we wake up, there's a lot of expectations we already place on ourselves. And then as soon as we go out into the world, there's a lot that continues to be impressed upon us and really can be difficult for us to maneuver through without having a lot of triggers. And so when we get overwhelmed, we're more sensitive to being triggered. And tapping is a brilliant tool that we're going to use tonight to help us to be able to process those triggers and come back to a place of peace and calm. I'm going to say hi to a few more people. Monica Freeman's here. Wendy Sue says she loves EFT. Fantastic. Fantastic. So if you're new to tapping, great. If you've been around, great. My version of it is a little bit faster and goes to the root exactly to what it is that you have as your stress and struggle. So I always like to start this show with sharing with you the simple tapping points that I like to use. So first, let's just remember that our bodies are energy and that we've got rivers of energy that flow in our body called energy meridians. And there are hundreds of energy points all over the body. The ones that I like to use for my style of tapping are the ones that are more aligned with the fight or flight type of reaction triggers that we have. So the first one is, we're just practicing here, so just take 2 fingers and just start tapping between your eyebrows. If you grew your eyebrows together right here, that's your first point. Just get a nice healthy bounce going there where you actually can hear a padding sound. So you want to be tapping enough where you can actually hear it sounding. It's kind of a pat, 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 pat. That's the first point. This is the bladder meridian, and it represents emotional trauma. And then on the side of the eye, right here, and you can use 2 hands if you'd like to use both sides. This is the gallbladder meridian, and it represents anger. And then under your eye, right here on the top of your cheekbones, this is the stomach meridian, and it represents anxiety. And we're just practicing, so if you're joining us, welcome. We're just going over the tapping points that we're going to be using tonight. And then you're going to take all 4 fingers and get a nice bounce on your collarbones. So again, you want to tap enough so you can actually hear a padding sound, so you know that you're really engaging the energy system. You don't want to be too light, and you don't want to certainly knock yourself out or bruise yourself, but enough where you actually can feel it engaging. And the last point is, we're going to just take one hand and squeeze the opposite wrist a couple times, because our energy flows from the top of our head to our feet and out to our extremities, out to our fingertips. So the reason why we use our fingers to tap is because there are energy meridians on each of our fingertips. So we're actually using the meridians to tap onto other meridians. And all the energy meridians in our body are interconnected. So if you followed along with me and we tapped on these points together and you said, hey, Suzanne, wait a minute, you missed a couple points. There's one here and here and here and here and here and here and here. There are hundreds of points all over the body, and you can't do this wrong. I just like to use the ones that are associated more with fight or flight, which is between the eyes, side of the eye, under the eye, on your collarbone, and you're going to grab your wrist. So what's happening when we're tapping? Well, when we think a thought, that thought is communicated to the body using the body's energy system. So when we think, the body feels. So when we're tapping, while we're focused on that thought, what we're helping the body do is keep the energy circulating in the body. The energy likes to circulate in a figure-8 motion. And when we think something that's distressing, or maybe it's a distressing memory or a thought or an idea, or maybe it's an experience that we had, our energy can kind of get locked up on us and get stuck. So when we start to tap, what we're doing is we're kind of wiggling free that energy from wherever it might be stuck and helping it start to circulate with the rest of the energy body and integrate within us in a place that has us feeling more peace and calm. And whether it's settling the thoughts in the mind or helping the body be able to process and come to his place of relief. So I want to say hi to a couple more people who have joined us. Brittany's here, first time in my life. Thanks for being here, Brittany. Oh, Wendy says her first time watching too. Awesome. And thanks for being open for a new approach, Brittany. That's awesome. Yeah, Kim says where your unibrow would go. Yeah, if you had a unibrow, that's the first point. Welcome, Sue, and she says, I need this tonight. Hi, Carla. Thanks for being here. Oh, and thank you for sharing, Sue. And Kelly Robbins here. Hello. Bex Marie's here. All these wonderful people. Thank you all for joining. So we've gone over a little bit about the energy body and some of the tapping points that I like to use. And so tonight's topic is all about how to process emotional triggers and feel more peace. And so as I was sharing with you earlier, life is very overstimulating for us. You know, from the moment that we wake up, we have a lot of expectations of ourselves for the day. And then we kind of go out into the world, and then other things can be influencing us and can be impressing upon us, even furthering, you know, our level of stress reaction. And we often call those triggers. You know, someone says something to us, or we have an experience that we're unable to resolve because we just don't have the way to kind of integrate it fast enough for how we might be experiencing it. So I invite everyone who's on the show tonight to maybe think of something that's triggered them recently. Maybe it's a situation you have as an experience. Maybe it's an old memory that you keep thinking about. Maybe it's a worry that you have about the future. And so I invite you to even share with me and pop into the chat and let me know what it is that you might be going through if you feel so inclined to share. I'm happy to create some more custom languaging in our tapping to help you if you do share with me. And I teach tapping in 4 easy steps. So step number 1 is to notice what bothers you and how it bothers you. So in the context of tonight's topic, which is to help using tapping to help us to process our emotional triggers, I invite you all to focus on something that triggers you. Whether it's a situation or an emotion, something that happened in the past, a worry that you have about the future, an old memory, just notice how it bothers you. Maybe you see it as a movie in your mind that you've created. Maybe it's one that you recorded. Maybe it's somebody's voice and they said something to you that triggered you. Maybe it's your own self-critical voice that says something. Or maybe you just feel some sensations in the body. Maybe you feel some tightness or tension, or you have some physical symptoms. And just notice whatever that is. That's always step 1 of tapping, is to aim at what bothers you and how you know it bothers you. And then step number 2 of tapping is to give it an intensity number on a scale of 0 to 10. If 0 is it doesn't really bother me and 10 is it really bothers me, what number would you give it? And just notice that number. And then step number 3 of tapping is to go to the part that stands out the most. So when you think about this thing that's triggering you, whatever it might be, whatever emotion it might be, whoever might be triggering you, whatever might be triggering you, where you might be triggered, what time of day you might be triggered, go to the part that really stands out, the part where you say, oh, this is the part that I just don't like. What they said, what they did, how I'm interpreting it. Maybe it's this experience I'm having in the body. Really drop into the details of what it is that you're experiencing. And then you have to press on the pain just a little bit to get to the root of it. And that's why I like the process that I follow. I think it really helps you get to the root and results faster, which we're all looking for. We just want that peace of mind. We want that peace of contentment. And so I invite you to go to that trigger, give it an intensity number, go to the part that stands out the most, and then step number 4 is we're going to tap. But before we tap, I just want to say hi to a couple more people that have joined. And thanks everybody who's been sharing so far. I appreciate all the shares. Sharni Clark is here, and Christy Warnick is here. Oh, so honored. Love when Christy's joining. And Teresa Warren is here. Hello, Teresa. Teresa and I just tapped yesterday on her show. That was fabulous, along with Bex and Rhonda. Kelly Line is here. Great, I'm just going to read through. So Christy shares that some of her emotional triggers come from change in perspectives, or definitely change in perspectives is definitely the relief that we're all looking for, that's for sure. Mary Markowski is here, and Eleanor Young has joined. Thank you all for being here. So for tonight's topic, again, where are you triggered? Who, what, where, why, and when. Step number 1, notice what your trigger is. So I invite you all to go to that trigger that you were thinking about, or if you're just joining us now, go to that emotional trigger. Step number 2 is give it an intensity number. So capture that number on a scale of 0 to 10. What is the intensity that you experience that trigger? Step number 3, go to the part that stands out the most, the part where you say, oof, that's the part I don't like. That's the part that really gets me, what it looked like, what it sounded like, what it felt like. Go to that part, be willing to go there. And then step number 4 is we're going to start tapping together. So take your 2 fingers, either hand. You can use both hands if you want. All good. Repeat out loud after me and take your 2 fingers, start tapping between your eyes and say, this trigger, it gets me reacting. All the reasons it gets me reacting. How it gets me reacting. How my body reacts to this trigger. All the emotions. All the thoughts. The old familiar stories. This trigger. And then tap on the side of the eye. This trigger. Everyone that's involved with it. How I've reacted to it. The emotional habit. All the beliefs tied to this reaction. All the out of control feelings. The hurt and pain. The emotional trauma. The anger. The worry. All the stress. And tap on your collarbones. I'm just helping my body to settle down now. Calming all my body systems that may have been affected by this trigger. Helping my body breathe. Helping my temperature normalize. Clearing any of the overthinking thoughts that I may have had with this trigger. And then tap between your eyes again. This trigger, how I'm connected to it, why it affects me, whatever happened, what they said, what they did, what they didn't say, what they didn't do. I just let it go. I'm willing to let it go because I deserve peace. And tapping is a great way to help me calm my mind and settle my body and process and resolve back to peace. I'm willing to give myself this gift today, right now. Whatever triggered me is over with, and I'm willing to get present again. Clearing any blocks or barriers in the way of getting present. And then take one hand and squeeze the opposite wrist a couple times and take a nice easy breath. Blow it out. Say the word clear. Now in your mind, I invite you to go think of something that feels really, really easy. Something that's just effortless. Effortless. Maybe it's, you know where your toothbrush is. Maybe, I know where that is. Maybe it's, I know how to do this. For me, I like to make scrambled eggs. I'm really good at it. It's really easy for me to do. If you want scrambled eggs, you should come over because I'm really good at making them. So find something that's just really easy and effortless for you to do and feel good about yourself in doing it. Really start to access your inner value. And it doesn't have to be anything monumental. It can be as easy as I make good scrambled eggs. Just find something within you where you find value and worth that's really easy and effortless for you. And when you're there, make strong as you possibly can. Make it a 10. If it's a little movie that you're watching of making your scrambled eggs, or finding where your keys are, whatever you know how to do that's easy and effortless and feels valuable to you, do that thing. Watch it. Hear the sounds. Feel how relaxed your body might feel. And when you're there, take your 2 fingers and tap between your eyes again. Repeat out loud after me and say, this is who I truly am, naturally and easily. This effortless ease inside of me, doing this thing that I do so well. It's so easy, and I have it inside of me. I know how to do things well. I am valuable, and it's easy to know this. This wonderful part of me, it's all mine. I can have it anytime I want. It feels easy and effortless. It's a wonderful thing. And I create it like I create all things. And then take one hand and squeeze the opposite wrist and take a nice breath. Put it out. Say the word peace. Now I invite you to go back in your mind to the thing that you were thinking about earlier, the thing that was triggering you. Maybe it was a situation, maybe it was an emotion, maybe it was an old thought from the past, maybe it was a worry about for the future. And you had an intensity number associated with it. And go and check in with yourself now and see what number you might be at now. Are you still connected to it? Is there still some left? Maybe you were a 10 and now you're a 5. Or maybe you were an 8 and now you're a 2. And I would love to learn where you're at on that emotional scale range. So please pop it in the chat and let me know. I'm going to read a couple of notes here. Teresa says she made scrambled eggs this morning and thought of me. Yes, Teresa and I talked about scrambled eggs yesterday. So wonderful. Kim says, as I was tapping, what came to mind was just send out love. Love is beautiful. Welcome, Lynn Marie. Brittany says she feels great. So if you had an intensity number that you had before we started tapping, please pop it in the chat and let me know what that number was, and then tell me where you might be now. So as I mentioned when we started this wonderful show tonight, we are already living with a very low-grade stress in our body because of the expectations that we put on ourselves and all of the pressure that we experience in just living our day-to-day. And then we wake up and we leave the house and we go to work and we engage in society and we talk to our friends and our family, and even more comes upon us. And life can be extremely overwhelming. And so we become more and more sensitive with the body's reaction to these triggers that are out there. And so I use tapping as a brilliant tool in the moment. So people often ask, well, when should I be tapping? The best time to tap is in the moment of your trigger, to help your body and your mind process that reaction. That way you don't stay stuck in it. And the worst thing that we can do is stay on a thought and keep overthinking it and stay looping in it. The worst thing that we can do is when our body starts to react in a trigger mode is stay stuck in that reaction. So tapping is a tool that we can use in the moment to help the mind and the body process and be able to come to a place of completion. That way we can feel more peace and calm. So let me know if you have any questions. Oh, so Kim says we're going to some numbers here. Kim says it was an 8, now she's a 0. Wendy says she loved it. Monica says nice flow of thoughts. Cindy, you're so wonderful. You're so brilliant. She says 20 years later, a 9 to a 0. I was ready to let it go. You know, we're coming up on the full moon in Sagittarius tomorrow. We're really needing to let go of any emotional triggers that are keeping us anchored in emotional habits and beliefs and stories from the past. And that may include people in your life, jobs, situations, activities, affiliations to groups, organizations, institutions that are truly not aligned with who we are, but yet we've had some type of connection and attachment to them. So tapping really can help us to be able to regulate the momentum of our body's experience of the trigger that we might have and the connection with those things, as well as be able to detach in the meaning that we've given these things outside of ourselves as authority, of our world. That way we can come back into defining the meaning of who we are and our own personal value, and then be able to establish for ourselves real good rapport with our intuition and our inner senses that are really guiding us through life, which sadly we've repressed and have been conditioned over by all those external things. And this full moon in Sagittarius this week is going to help us to be able to really release those things in coming home to self-honor within our mind and body, be able to live on our own terms, and be able to have the connection with the value and worth of who we truly are. And we know this because there are things and situations in our life that are triggering us to say, that's just not right. That's just not how I am. And I'm reacting to be able to give something outside of myself when I really need to stay present in my body's experience and honor who I am and express myself authentically and be safe and trusting that I do so in a way that is compassionate toward another, but still really keeps me connected with myself and my own divine source. So I'm going to read a couple more comments. Welcome, Dallas. Thanks for being here. Sharni shares, for me, the trigger I used today was the thought and the emotional process of loss and fear of losing others and attachment. She was at an 8 and it went down to a 4. Work in progress. And that is beautiful, Sharni. Thank you for sharing that, because tapping is not a one-hit wonder. This is something that you can use as a living skill. It is a free self-use acupressure technique that can really help you, like I say, detach from the meaning of the connection that you've given these things in your life that have really claimed authority over your mind and body. That way you can safely and with self-trust come back home to yourself. And it is a journey, and it is an emotional process to be able to go through those stages of loss. And we've all been waking up to the conditioning that we've been agreed to live with. And a lot of that came through our genetics and has come from ancestors before us. And we all said, we want to come into this time, space, reality in this lifetime and help all of our future generations be free of these old patterns that no longer serve us. So when, Sharni, when you think about some of the triggers that you have and processing the emotions of losing others and the attachment to those things, I even take it a step further and look at your own genealogy. People are so interested these days to look up and see their ancestors and how they're connected to their ancestors. And you think about what your ancestral history may have gone through. Did have your ancestors lived through famine? Have they lived through genocide? Have they lived through war? Have they lived through poverty? Have they lived through some type of lack? And that may still be living within your own cellular memory and be playing out in your lifetime in some storyline in honor of all of that that's been living in your genes. And so if you have any of those as struggles in your life as present storylines that may trigger you and you really want to get over it, tapping is a brilliant tool to be able to help you get under the covers into that neurobiology of the cellular memory that is carrying those storylines as belief systems, as emotional habits. And tapping can really start to help you weed them out at the root and get them to be set free from you and be able to set you on the trajectory and course of where it is that you want to go. So hopefully that wasn't too deep and that made sense. Yes, Wendy, I love that. It's like tapping is your spiritual tool belt. I call it kind of put it in your into your stress relief toolbox. But I love that spiritual tool belt. That's brilliant. Hello, Linda. Kim says, I am doing it even while I'm driving, which we all can be stressful. Oh yeah, I mean, great. No more road rage. Definitely. When you're in the middle of a traffic jam and if that's triggering you, definitely tap, because when we're present, we can be clear receivers for what it is that is for our highest and best good. And that, I think, is such a powerful thing to have, is presence. We talk about it as a concept, But how do you truly embody presence? It's not easy to be in the present moment because we have so much data and references that drag us into the emotional past. And so wherever you might be triggered, in a traffic jam, in your own mind and stories that you talk about, when you're tapping, you can help your mind body become present. And it's in that presence, even if you can just stay there for a half a minute, 2 minutes, and practice that muscle of being present. That is where you are an active receiver for all it is that you're going to be able to, update your internal program. Welcome, Linda. Just reading some more comments here. Cindy says it may be something that you don't even think about, and when it slightly surfaces, we try to rationalize it at the same time and not really even look. That's so true. We just automatically go into autopilot and want to justify it because we have such attachment to the identity that we've created for ourselves around these emotional habits and belief systems. And we often say, well, that's just how we do it in my family. That's just who I am. Can I ever get over this? You certainly can. And tapping is the tool to use to do it. It has worked for me in shifting chronic stress in my life, emotional, mental, physical. It's helped, I've been working for 10 years and being able to help other people be able to process and resolve their stress using tapping as a tool. And if you followed along tonight and tapping resonated with you, amazing. Keep doing it for yourself. And I invite you to join my group. It's called the Empowered Tapping Revolution. There's a link to the group description box of this video, as well as if you're interested to work a little bit more deeply on getting to the root of your personal stress and struggle, your personal emotional triggers, then feel free to pop 30 minutes on my calendar. There's a link in the description box of this video, and we will really start to get to the specific language that you might need to use in order to uncover, where it is that you are stressed and stuck, and be able to help you process and resolve. So I invite you to take advantage of both of those opportunities. Join my group, the Empower Tapping Revolution, and get onto my calendar for 30 minutes and empower yourself with this living skill. As someone mentioned, a spiritual tool belt, which I love. So if tapping didn't resonate with you, please go find something that does, because life requires you now to have tools and skills to be able to survive. It is the survival of the fittest. Emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, you need to have your own spiritual tool belt of what you're going to use to be able to help you through emotional triggers, blockages, limiting beliefs, negative emotions. It's no longer an option. If you resist it, the body will suffer in pain and disease, emotionally, mentally, and physically. So tapping is a brilliant tool that can help you to overcome all of that and be able to put you on a trajectory and a forward course toward what it is that you want, and you be an active receiver for it. Let me just look at a few last comments here, and feel free to ask any questions that you have also about tapping. Cindy says it affects your self-worth and have that cleared, like having a clear sight restored after looking through a haze for years. Yeah, I mean, definitely it provides, when you're living in a stress response, your body is like acting as a tornado. And when you're tapping, you're literally calming and settling that tornado down. That way you can start to have some perspective. And with that perspective comes clarity. And that clarity is what we're all looking for, that peace of mind, that direct line to be able to know exactly what we should do next. When we're cluttered and overwhelmed and there's chaos and confusion inside our overthinking mind or in our body's reaction to stress, we can't get the next thing that needs to happen for us. And we often make impulse decisions just to be able to get out of that space, but it's just a temporary solution. The best answers come from when we're clear and present, and tapping can help get you there. Sharni says, abso-freaking-lutely. Rhonda says, thank you for all your info. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for joining tonight. This is our weekly show of Let's Tap, the show where you're able to come on, ask any questions that you have about tapping, and each week we'll have a different topic to all, help us move in the direction of getting more peace and calm in our life, being able to learn how to build that internal muscle of being present, to shift away from any limiting beliefs or blockages that we might have, from being the receivers that we are worthy of being, so that we can move forward in life. We no longer need to be bound by past patterns, programs, limiting beliefs, no matter where they came from. The past generations, past lives, current lives, all of it can be cleaned and cleared up and be able to help you move forward. So as always, thank you so much for listening to me and joining tonight's show. I hope you take advantage and join the Empowered Tapping Revolution. I look forward to seeing a few of you, hopefully on my calendar soon, to be able to have a personalized mini tapping experience. I know Cindy's had one. I know a few other people on this call have had one and have had amazing shifts in their lives. So I invite you to come take advantage of that. Links are in the description box of this video, and I will see you next Monday. Good night, everyone.